Have you ever felt so overwhelmed that you wondered if your family would be better off without you? The city below Lena Whitaker's apartment window is a blur of headlights and early morning urgency. Minneapolis breathes in a gray November dawn, cold, hurried, and indifferent. Lena's breath fogs the glass as she stands there, arms wrapped tight around herself, her eyes tracing the patterns of people already in motion. The world carries on, relentless and oblivious to the heaviness she carries. Behind her, muffled chaos stirs. A cereal bowl clatters, a cartoon theme song leaks from a small TV, and a child's voice, Zoey's, rises in a high, impatient plea. "Mom, did you find my blue socks? The ones with the stars?" Lena blinks, shakes herself loose from the city's pull, and turns back into the reality of their modest two-bedroom apartment. The living room is a patchwork of hand-me-down furniture, scattered school papers, and a growing pile of unfolded laundry. The radiator hisses in the corner, valiantly fighting the crisp morning air that seeps through drafty windows. Zoey, 7, is already dressed from the waist up, rainbow t-shirt, tangled hair, but bare feet stuck out as she sits cross-legged on the sofa. Her face is round and expectant, cheeks flushed with energy. Milo, 10, perches quietly at the dining table, head bowed over a sketchbook. He moves his pencil in slow, careful arcs, dark eyes flickering up now and then to catch Lena's gaze, always searching for reassurance. "I'll look in the laundry basket," Lena calls, grabbing a mug of coffee that's gone tepid. "But you might have to wear the red ones today." Zoey groans but doesn't protest further. She's used to life's small compromises. Milo offers a shy, lopsided smile. "It's okay, Mom. I'll help Zoey find them." Lena's heart tugs at the way Milo tries to smooth things over, even at his age. She sets her mug down and crouches to tie Zoey's shoes. The clock on the wall ticks closer to 7:45. In exactly 25 minutes, they need to be out the door. Her brain begins the daily inventory. Lunch is packed, permission slip signed, inhaler for Zoey's mild asthma tucked into her backpack. Some mornings, Lena feels like a juggler with too many balls in the air and no applause at the end of the act. By 8:10, they tumble out into the brisk morning, breath visible in the cold, Milo clutching his sketchbook, Zoey skipping ahead in mismatched socks. Their apartment building, a squat structure of red brick and faded hope, sits wedged between a bakery and a laundromat. The city is alive with honking horns, buses exhaling clouds of steam, and commuters in thick jackets hurrying toward downtown. Lena ushers the kids into the school's side entrance. Zoey barely stops to hug her, already swept up in the tide of classmates. Milo lingers, looking up at his mom, his small hand tightening around hers. "Don't forget to eat lunch, okay?" he says, voice quiet, almost apologetic. "I won't," Lena promises, brushing a stray curl from his forehead. "You too. And good luck on your art project." His face brightens just a little. "Thanks, Mom." She watches him disappear into the school's fluorescent-lit hallways, the weight in her chest pressing a little harder. Across the street, Lena's bus rumbles to a stop, and she boards with the other shivering commuters. She settles into a window seat, letting the noise of the city fill the silence in her head. Her phone vibrates with an early email notification from work, and she doesn't have to read it to know it's something urgent. 20 minutes later, the downtown skyline looms above her, glass and steel catching the clouded light. Lena's office building is sleek and anonymous, its lobby echoing with the click of heels and the low hum of urgent conversations. She passes through security, exchanging polite half-smiles with people she's worked alongside for years, and rides the elevator to the 5th floor. Inside the customer service bullpen, the air is thick with the sound of ringing phones and frustrated voices. Lena's desk is a small island of order. Family photos, a well-worn stress ball, a mug that reads, "World's Okayest Mom." She logs in, skims her overflowing inbox, and is immediately pulled into one issue after another. A customer angry about a delayed shipment, a supervisor reminding her about last month's performance metrics, a system update gone awry. Between calls, Lena massages her temples, willing the tension to ease. Her boss, Ms. Garrison, stops by with a clipboard, her expression tight and businesslike. Lena, I need you to handle the Williams account personally. Their fourth complaint this week. And your last report had a few discrepancies I want to discuss later. Yes, Ms. Garrison, Lena replies, forcing her most professional smile. Ms. Garrison doesn't acknowledge it, already moving on to the next problem. Lena's phone rings again. She closes her eyes for a split second, then answers with a practiced cheerfulness. Thank you for calling Northland Supplies. This is Lena. How can I help you today? The hours crawl by, a blur of apologies, explanations, and the constant pressure to remain calm, competent, and endlessly patient. By noon, Lena's lunch sits untouched at her desk. She scrolls through her checking account on her phone. 27:14 until Friday. A small knock on the partition breaks her trance. Tyrell Gaines, her friend and fellow survivor of customer service, leans in, his broad frame blocking out the flickering overhead lights. He's in his early 40s, sharp-dressed, always carrying an air of quiet confidence. Hey, Lena. You look like you need 10 minutes away from this circus. Walk with me? He asks, the corners of his eyes crinkling in a warm smile. She hesitates, glancing at the mounting work on her screen. Come on, Tyrell insists. The place won't burn down without you for 10 minutes. She relents, following him to the break room, where the smell of burnt coffee and instant noodles hangs in the air. Tyrell pours them each a cup. Black, no sugar, just how Lena likes it. Rough morning? He asks. Lena laughs softly, the sound edged with exhaustion. Try rough week, or month. I don't know, Tyrell. It just feels like I'm always behind, at work, at home, everywhere. He nods, sympathetic. I get it. Single parenting is a marathon with no finish line. But you're one of the toughest people I know. She manages a grateful smile. Thanks for saying that. Sometimes it feels like nobody even sees how hard I'm trying. Tyrell raises his cup in a silent toast. I see you, Lena. And your kids do, too. Even if they don't always say it. The words stick with her as she returns to her desk. But the warmth fades quickly as the day barrels on. By 5:30, Lena is back on the bus, pressed between commuters staring at their phones. The sky is already dark, city lights flickering to life as they roll past boarded-up shops and corner stores. Her mind replays the unfinished tasks at work, the never-ending list of things to do at home. When Lena unlocks their apartment door, she's greeted by Zoey's exuberant hug and Milo's quiet smile. The scent of something burnt lingers, Zoey's attempt at microwaving popcorn gone awry. Lena laughs, the sound brittle, and ruffles her daughter's hair. Dinner is a simple affair. Boxed macaroni, frozen peas, a handful of baby carrots. Lena helps Milo with math homework, her patience thinning as Zoey interrupts every few minutes with questions about a science project involving baking soda and vinegar. The apartment hums with life, but Lena feels like a ghost moving through it, her movements automatic, her mind distant. After dinner, the kids watch TV while Lena scrubs dishes in the cramped kitchen. The window above the sink is fogged with condensation. Outside, the city's lights blink in the darkness. She leans against the counter, eyes closed, feeling the ache in her lower back, the persistent throb behind her eyes. She can hear Zoey giggling, Milo explaining the plot of their favorite cartoon for the 10th time this week. It should make her smile, but instead she feels invisible, her efforts unnoticed, her struggles unseen. The mail sits in a pile on the counter. Lena flips through it absently. Grocery flyers, bills, and then a pale pink envelope from the property management company. She tears it open, her heart sinking as she reads the words, Notice of rent increase. $75 more per month, starting next cycle. She stares at the letter, her breath catching. How? Where will that money come from? There's no overtime at work, not with budget cuts. No extra shifts, no hidden savings. The phone rings, an unfamiliar number. Lena hesitates, then answers. Hello, Ms. Whitaker. This is Mrs. Patel from Emerson Elementary. I wanted to discuss Zoe's behavior in class. She's been having trouble following instructions, and today she disrupted reading time. We're concerned, and we'd like to set up a meeting to talk about strategies to help her focus. Lena listens, her voice tight. Thank you, Mrs. Patel. I'll make sure to talk to Zoe, and I'll come in for a meeting. I'm sorry for the trouble. The call ends. Lena stands motionless in the kitchen, staring at the cracked linoleum beneath her feet. Rent is going up. The school is calling. The kids are growing, needing more than she feels able to give. She hears a gentle knock on the wall. Maribel Figueroa, her neighbor, pokes her head in through the open apartment door. Hey, Lena. Sorry to bother you. Do you still want to borrow my slow cooker for tomorrow? I made too much stew if you and the kids want some. Lena musters a weary smile. Thanks, Maribel. But we're okay tonight. Maybe next time. Maribel nods, her gaze softening. You sure you're okay? I can take the kids for a bit if you need some quiet. Lena shakes her head. Thank you. Really. I just need to get through tonight. Maribel hesitates, then retreats, leaving Lena alone in the glow of the kitchen light. Later, when the kids are in bed, Zoey curled up with her stuffed giraffe, Milo reading under his blanket. Lena sits on the edge of her own bed, the rent notice and school message heavy in her lap. The hum of the city below is distant, almost comforting in its predictability. Her mind races, cataloging every worry, money, work, the kids' happiness, her own exhaustion. She presses the heels of her hands to her eyes, fighting tears. In the darkness, her thoughts spiral. How much more can I take? Her chest tightens. She feels hemmed in by expectations, by love and worry and fear. The walls feel closer than ever, the future more uncertain. She doesn't want to leave. She never would. But for one brief, shameful moment, she wonders if her kids, her bright, beautiful Milo and her fierce, loving Zoe, wouldn't be better off with someone stronger, someone who doesn't feel like she's failing every day. But then she hears a soft sound from down the hall, Zoe's sleepy voice calling for water, and Milo's gentle shushing in response. Lena rises, wipes her eyes, and goes to them. She tucks Zoe back in, kisses Milo on the head, and whispers, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. She stands in the hallway, silhouetted by the faint glow of the nightlight, and breathes. Have you ever reached your breaking point? Let us know in the comments. Lena blinked hard, pushing herself away from the window as the city's morning clamor pressed against the glass. The apartment behind her was already stirring. Zoe's voice rang out from the hallway, shrill with frustration, as Milo shuffled into the kitchen, his hair sticking out in soft cowlicks. Lena forced a smile, trying to shake off the heaviness clinging to her chest. Mom, I can't find my other shoe, Zoe wailed, stomping her foot on the peeling linoleum. She was already dressed in her favorite pink leggings, mismatched socks peeking out from beneath the hem. It's probably under your bed, Lena called back, trying to sound patient as she poured the last of the milk over Milo's cereal. She winced, knowing she wouldn't be able to buy more until her next paycheck. Milo sat quietly, spooning the soggy flakes absent-mindedly, sketchbook by his side as always. Zoe burst into the kitchen still shoeless, cheeks flushed with the injustice of it all. Why do I always have to find everything by myself? She demanded, her small hands balled into fists. Lena knelt and brushed a stray curl from Zoe's forehead. Because you're strong, Zoe, but I'll help you look after breakfast, okay? She promised, forcing a gentleness she didn't feel. As the morning unfolded, Lena's exhaustion grew heavier. Packing lunches with stale bread, she watched the two of them bicker over the last clean container. Milo, ever the peacemaker, handed it to Zoe without a word, then grabbed his backpack and slipped on his worn sneakers, soles flapping slightly at the heels. The walk to school was brisk, the Minneapolis wind biting through Lena's thin coat. Zoe skipped ahead, leaping over cracks in the sidewalk, while Milo trudged beside his mother, silent and thoughtful. Do you have to work late again tonight? He asked quietly, not looking up from the cracked pavement. I'll try to be home as soon as I can, Lena replied, her voice catching on the lie. She squeezed his shoulder, hoping it would be enough. At the school gates, Zoey darted off without a backward glance. Milo lingered, shifting from foot to foot. "See you after school, kiddo," Lena said. But Milo just nodded, his brown eyes clouded. The day at work was no easier. The fluorescent lights in the call center flickered overhead as Lena fielded complaints from irate customers, her headset pressing into her temples. Around her, the low hum of voices and ringing phones blended into a relentless drone. Tyrell Gaines, her friend from 2 cubicles over, caught her eye as he passed by, coffee in hand. "You look like you could use a break," he said, flashing a tired grin. "If only," Lena muttered, tapping at her keyboard. She could feel her boss, Ms. Halverson, watching from her glass office, the kind of gaze that made Lena's spine stiffen. Tyrell leaned closer, voice low. "Let's grab coffee after your shift. My treat. You can vent, I can pretend I have solutions." Despite herself, Lena smiled. "Hold me to it." But by lunchtime, things were already spiraling. Her phone buzzed, an email alert from the bank. She opened it with a sinking feeling. Overdrawn. The word blinked back at her, cruel and impersonal. Her stomach clenched. How had she missed the automatic payment for utilities? She scrolled through her recent purchases, searching for something unnecessary, something she could have skipped. A second alert. A message from the school. Zoey's teacher, Ms. Morrison, requesting a meeting to discuss ongoing behavioral concerns. Lena felt her cheeks heat with shame. She imagined the whispers in the hallway, the judgment in the teacher's eyes. The rest of the afternoon passed in a fog. Tyrell stopped by her desk, but Lena shook her head. "Rain check. Sorry." He didn't push. "You know where to find me if you change your mind," he said, squeezing her shoulder. When Lena returned to the apartment, the sun was already sinking behind the skyline, casting the living room in pale gold. Maribel Figueroa, her neighbor from down the hall, poked her head in as Lena fumbled for her keys. "Hey, Lena? Long day?" Maribel's voice was warm, her arms full with bags of groceries. "Yeah, you could say that," Lena admitted, managing a tired laugh. "If you ever need me to watch the kids, just ask. Seriously, I know how it is." Maribel's eyes were kind, understanding. Lena wanted to say yes. She wanted to hand over her burdens just for an hour, but pride, or maybe guilt, held her back. "Thanks, Maribel. I appreciate it. Maybe another time." Inside, Milo and Zoey were already squabbling over the TV remote. Lena set her bag down and sank onto the couch, her whole body aching. She watched her children, their sharp edges, their soft hearts, and wondered if she was failing them. Dinner was a rushed affair. Boxed mac and cheese, a can of green beans. Zoey picked at her plate, glancing at her mother out of the corner of her eye. "Ms. Morrison says I talk too much," she blurted suddenly, voice defensive. Lena forced a smile. "I like that you have a lot to say, Zoey, but maybe it's good to listen sometimes too." Zoey folded her arms. "She doesn't like me. She thinks I'm bad." "You're not bad," Lena said, more fiercely than she intended. "You're just you. And that's enough." Milo was quiet, pushing macaroni into elaborate shapes on his plate. Lena reached for his hand. "Everything okay, buddy?" He shrugged, not meeting her gaze. "I need new shoes," he said softly, as if apologizing. Lena's heart twisted. "We'll see what we can do, okay?" After dinner, Lena tried to help with homework, but Zoey grew frustrated with her math, crumpling her worksheet and throwing it across the table. "I hate this. I'm stupid." "You're not stupid," Lena said, exasperated. "Let's just take a break." Zoey stomped off to her room, slamming the door. Milo gathered his pencils and went to draw in the corner, shoulders hunched. By the time the kids were in bed, Lena was too tired to move. She sat in the dim living room, the city lights flickering through the window, and listened to the quiet hum of the refrigerator. Her phone buzzed again. A new email from Ms. Halverson, subject line, urgent. She read it with mounting dread. A mistake on one of Lena's customer accounts. An error that would need to be fixed before tomorrow's shift. The words "serious consequences" hung in the air. Lena buried her face in her hands. She felt like she was unraveling, each thread of her life coming loose in her hands. She couldn't remember the last time she'd laughed. Really laughed. She couldn't remember the last night she'd slept through without waking in panic at 3 a.m. The next morning, Lena forced herself into motion. She dressed quickly, applying concealer to the dark circles under her eyes. She packed lunch for the kids, half a peanut butter sandwich for each, the last apple split between them. Milo noticed, but didn't say anything. On the way to school, Zoey lagged behind, her hand slipping from Lena's grasp. "Why are you mad at me?" she asked suddenly, eyes wide and searching. Lena knelt down, brushing hair from Zoey's face. "I'm not mad, sweetie. I'm just tired. It's not your fault." Zoey nodded, unconvinced, and ran ahead to catch up with Milo. At work, Tyrell flagged Lena down as she filled her mug at the coffee machine. "You look like you haven't slept in a week," he joked, his tone gentle. "Haven't felt human in about as long," Lena replied, managing a weak smile. Tyrell leaned against the counter, his own exhaustion clear in the lines around his eyes. "You know, you're not the only single parent in this place. Last week I forgot to pick up my daughter from gymnastics because I was stuck on a call. She had to wait with the janitor for 40 minutes. He shook his head. "We all mess up, Lena." Lena looked at him surprised. "You always seem like you have it together." Tyrell laughed. "That's the coffee, and maybe the acting skills I picked up in college." He looked at her seriously. "Don't shut people out, okay? Let people help, even if it's just listening." She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Thanks, Ty. Maybe I'll take you up on that coffee soon." He grinned. "Anytime. Just don't steal my favorite mug." Lunch break came and went. Lena spent it on the phone with the school, trying to schedule a meeting with Ms. Morrison. The conversation left her drained. She could hear the disapproval in the teacher's voice, the implication that if Lena just tried harder, Zoey wouldn't act out. She hung up and stared at her reflection in the dark computer screen, wondering if she was the problem. The bank called next, a polite but firm reminder about her overdrawn account. "We can discuss payment options, Ms. Whitaker," the representative said, voice syrupy smooth. "I just need a few more days," Lena said, her voice small. "Please." After work, Lena trudged home through the chilled dusk, her hands shoved deep into her coat pockets. The city felt enormous and uncaring, tall buildings crowding out the sky, neon signs flickering in the early dark. She stopped at the corner store for milk, but left empty-handed, the numbers in her bank account echoing in her mind. Maribel was waiting in the hallway, her own kids' laughter spilling from her apartment. "Are you sure you don't want to let them come over? You look like you could use a nap." Lena shook her head, forcing a smile. "I'll be fine. Thanks, Maribel." Inside, the kids were drawing at the kitchen table. Milo's sneakers, holes more visible than ever, were kicked off by the door. "Can we go to the park tomorrow?" Zoey asked, her voice hopeful. "We'll see, honey." "Maybe," Lena replied, not wanting to promise anything. She started dinner, the motions automatic. She listened to her children's voices, Zoey chattering about a new game at recess, Milo quietly humming as he drew. But beneath it all, Lena sensed the tension, the unease. The kids glanced at her, as if waiting for her to snap. After dinner, Lena sat with Milo as he worked on a drawing, an elaborate cityscape, colorful and full of life. "Do you like it?" he asked shyly, holding up the paper. "It's beautiful, Milo." Lena tried to muster enthusiasm, but her voice was thin. He hesitated. "Are you mad at me too?" "No, baby. I'm just tired. Really tired." He nodded, unconvinced. The apartment was quiet after the kids went to bed. Lena sat on the edge of her own mattress, staring at the rent notice on her nightstand. She tried to calculate how she would stretch her next paycheck, what she could cut, what she could sell. Her phone buzzed again. a reminder from work about the account error. She pressed the phone to her forehead, breathing in slow, shallow bursts. Suddenly, Lena felt a wave of guilt so strong it made her dizzy. She thought about Zoey's teacher, about Milo's shoes, about the bills piling up. She thought about all the ways she wasn't enough. She stood up and walked to the living room, the city lights glittering beyond the window. She pressed her hand against the glass, feeling the cold seep into her skin. A knock at the door startled her. Maribel stood there, concern etched deep on her face. "Lena, you don't have to do this alone," she said softly. "Let me help." Lena shook her head, tears prickling her eyes. "I'm their mom. I have to be the strong one." Maribel smiled sadly. "Being strong doesn't mean never asking for help. It means knowing when you need it." Lena nodded, but said nothing. She watched Maribel walk back to her own apartment, the door clicking shut behind her. That night, Lena lay awake, listening to her kids breathing in the next room. She wanted to believe she was enough. She wanted to believe things would get better. But right now, all she could do was keep going. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by life's challenges, you're not alone. Subscribe to our channel for more real stories about resilience and hope, because sometimes just knowing someone else understands can make all the difference. As the first hints of dawn crept in through the window, Lena closed her eyes and promised herself she'd try again tomorrow. And maybe, just maybe, she'd let someone help her along the way. The day began the same as so many others, gray and restless, with Lena chasing time from the moment her alarm buzzed. But by evening, the world would feel like it was caving in. It started with a sharp, hollow silence. Lena sat on the bus, forehead pressed to the cold, rain-speckled window. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled through her phone. Another overdraft alert. She closed her eyes, hearing the echo of her boss's words from just an hour earlier. Clipped, disappointed, final. "I don't know what's going on with you lately, Lena, but mistakes like this can't happen again. You're supposed to set the example." She'd nodded, swallowing the apology that caught in her throat. The office had felt smaller with every passing week, the fluorescent lights harsher, the air colder. Even Tyrell's gentle, "Hang in there, I'm around if you need to talk," faded to the background, muffled by shame. Now, as the city blurred by outside, Lena's mind spun. Rent, groceries, Zoey's outburst at school, Milo's quiet sadness, her own invisible exhaustion. She pressed her thumb against her palm until it hurt, fighting back tears. Not here. Not yet. By the time Lena trudged up the apartment stairs, the sky was a darkening bruise, wind howling through the cracked window in the stairwell. She paused at the door, listening. Zoey's voice, high and angry, Milo's low and pleading. Inside, the apartment was a tangle of tension. Zoey sat cross-legged on the floor, arms folded tight, chin jutting out in stubborn defiance. Milo, perched on the edge of the couch, clutched a crumpled drawing, his entry for the school's art contest. Lena's heart sank as she recognized it. A bright city skyline, colored in hope and marker streaks. Zoey shot up the moment Lena entered. "Why'd you leave me at school so long? Mrs. Collins said you were late again." "I'm sorry, Zoey," Lena whispered. She knelt, but Zoey twisted away, eyes shining. "Everybody else's mom came on time. Everyone." Lena reached for her. Zoey flinched back. Milo stared at his hands, silent. The apartment felt smaller, the walls pressing in. Lena's bag slid from her shoulder, slumping to the floor with a dull thud. She tried to breathe, but the air was thick with old takeout and the faint scent of rain. She went through the motions, reheated leftovers, supervised homework, fielded Zoey's sharp little jabs and Milo's silence. When the kids argued over the last piece of cornbread, Lena snapped, a sharp, exhausted, "Enough!" that echoed too loud. Zoey's mouth trembled, Milo's eyes filled with tears. They ate in silence. After dinner, Zoey retreated to her room, slamming the door. Milo hovered, trying to fold his drawing back into his backpack, but the page split down the middle. He stared at it, then at Lena, eyes wide and wounded. "It's okay, buddy," Lena said, voice hoarse. "We'll fix it." He nodded, but didn't smile. By the time the dishes were done, Lena's legs ached. A cold draft snuck in beneath the window, making her shiver. She wanted to cry, to scream, to run. Instead, she sat at the kitchen table, staring at the unpaid bills. Her phone buzzed, a message from her boss. "See me first thing tomorrow." She pressed her palms to her eyes. Her breath hitched. What if they really would be better off without me? She didn't want to die. She didn't want to disappear. She just wanted to stop failing. She reached for a notepad, the one she used for grocery lists and reminders about field trips. Her pen hovered, then scratched shaky words across the page. "I'm sorry I can't always be the mom you deserve. I'm trying, but sometimes it feels like I'm drowning and you're both on the shore. I love you more than anything, but I don't know if I'm enough. I just wanted you to know that, in case I mess up again." She dropped the pen, numb. The words stared back, raw and desperate. She tore the page free, intending to crumple it, to hide it. But her hands shook. She shoved it beneath a pile of mail, not trusting herself to say more. A knock rapped at the door. Maribel, holding a plate of warm banana bread. "You look tired," Maribel said, eyes soft. "Let me take the kids tomorrow. You need a break." Lena managed a smile. "Thanks, but I can handle it." Maribel hesitated, then squeezed Lena's hand. "You're not alone, okay? Even if you feel like it." Lena nodded, throat tight. After Maribel left, Lena checked on the kids. Zoey curled beneath her blanket, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Milo, sitting on the floor, drawing in the soft light of his desk lamp. Lena kissed their foreheads, lingered a moment too long. When the apartment was finally silent, Lena slipped into her own room, heart pounding. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands pressed hard against her knees, staring at the shadows crawling across the ceiling. The tears came then, hot and silent. She wanted to call someone, anyone, but the words caught in her chest. She didn't notice the soft shuffle of feet in the hallway, the creak of the floorboard. Milo, searching for a pencil, had found the note. He read it once, then again, his heart hammering. He tucked the paper into his pocket and tiptoed to Zoe's room. "Zoe," he whispered, voice trembling, "I think Mom wants to leave us." Zoe blinked, confusion giving way to fear. "What? Why?" Milo handed her the note. Zoe's eyes grew wide, then glossy. She clutched her brother's hand. "We have to talk to her," Milo whispered. "We have to." They sat on the floor together for a long time, the apartment silent but for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant city sirens. It was nearly midnight when Lena heard their voices, soft, urgent, outside her door. She rubbed her eyes, trying to compose herself. "What are you two doing up?" Zoe's voice quivered. "Mom, are you leaving us?" Lena froze. "What?" "No, baby, no. Why would you think that?" Milo held out the note, crumpled and smudged with his thumbprint. "We found this. Are you mad at us? Did we do something wrong?" The pain in their faces, raw, unguarded, terrified, hit Lena like a punch to the chest. She dropped to her knees, arms open. Both children crashed into her, sobbing. "Listen to me," Lena said, her own tears streaming down. "I am not leaving you. I had a really hard day. Sometimes grown-ups get sad and tired, but it's not because of you. You two are the best thing in my life. I'm sorry you had to see that note." Zoe clung to her, face pressed to Lena's shoulder. "But you said you weren't enough." "But you are, Mom. You are." Milo's face was blotchy, eyes wide. "I would be lost without you." Lena hugged them tighter, rocking gently. The words she'd written, her secret shame, had become a wound they all shared. And yet, in the circle of their arms, she felt the tension shift. They needed her, broken and imperfect as she was. The night stretched on. The city outside faded to a hush. Lena stayed with her children, whispering promises she meant with every piece of her tired heart. As they finally drifted to sleep, Lena realized the truth she'd nearly missed. Her absence, even the thought of it, was unbearable to the two people who loved her most. They didn't see her failures. They saw their mother, the center of their small universe. That was the answer she'd been searching for, hidden in the tremble of her children's voices. She wasn't alone. She was needed. And that was enough. Lena sat on the edge of her bed, the dim glow of the hallway nightlight stretching over the carpet. Her heart thudded with the echoes of her children's voices, those desperate, trembling pleas from Milo and Zoey that had cracked something open inside her. She stared at the crumpled note in her lap, the one Milo had found, and felt a wave of shame mingled with fierce, unconditional love. For a long while, Lena just breathed. She listened to the city hush outside, the radiator's quiet hissing, the muffled clink of Milo's pencils as he rearranged his sketchbook on the other side of the wall. She could picture Zoey curled up, clutching her favorite stuffed panda, probably still awake, waiting for any sign that Mom was okay. For the first time, Lena realized her children didn't just need her to keep the lights on or make lunches. They needed her to be there, really there, in the ways she'd been too worn out to notice. She slid off the bed, padded down the hallway in her worn socks, and found both kids in Milo's room. Zoey tucked under Milo's arm, both blinking up at her with red-rimmed eyes. "I'm sorry," Lena whispered, kneeling between their beds. "I'm so sorry I made you worry. I'm not going anywhere. I love you both more than anything." Milo nodded, silent but relieved, and Zoey reached out, grabbing Lena's hand with both of hers. "Promise?" "Promise," Lena said, her voice steady for the first time in weeks. They sat there, the three of them, for a long while, huddled together under a faded dinosaur blanket. Lena smoothed Zoey's hair and told Milo how proud she was of his art, how much she loved seeing his sketches, even the ones he hid in the back of his notebook. She listened as Zoey described her day at school, the parts she'd been afraid to share before. There were tears, yes, but laughter too, the kind that bubbles up when the weight begins to lift, even if just a little. When the kids finally drifted off, Lena tiptoed to the kitchen, her mind churning. She spotted the overdue bills on the counter, the unopened letter from the landlord, the reminder about Zoey's meeting at school. Those problems hadn't vanished, but they no longer felt insurmountable. She made tea, warming her hands on the mug, and opened her phone to text Tyrell. "Hey, are you around tomorrow? I could use that coffee and some advice." A reply pinged almost instantly. "Always. You're not alone, Lena." That morning, Lena woke before her alarm. She watched her children sleeping, cheeks flushed and peaceful, and felt something inside her click into place. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be present. With that in mind, Lena started her day differently. Instead of rushing, she woke Milo and Zoey gently, letting them choose their breakfast, even though it meant a messier kitchen. She let Zoey wear her favorite mismatched socks and complimented Milo's new drawing, taping it to the fridge for everyone to see. On the way to school, the three of them walked hand in hand down the frosty sidewalk. The city felt less intimidating, even as the wind whipped at their scarves and the buses rumbled by. Lena squeezed Zoey's hand, and Zoey squeezed back, giggling as Milo leapt to avoid a puddle. After dropping them off, Lena took a deep breath and called the school counselor. Her voice shook, but she explained the struggles Zoey was facing at home and asked for help. Instead of judgment, she heard understanding. The counselor offered resources, after-school programs, a group for single parents, even a weekend art class for Milo at a reduced rate. "Thank you," Lena said, her relief palpable. "I didn't know there was help like this." At work, Tyrell was waiting with 2 steaming cups of coffee and a knowing smile. He listened without interrupting as Lena talked about the kids, the note, the fears she'd been carrying. When she finished, Tyrell nodded. "You know, you're allowed to lean on people," he said quietly. "You don't have to do it all alone." Lena smiled, truly smiled, and for the first time in a long time, she believed it. The day didn't get easier. Her boss still gave her a hard time, the rent was still going up. But Lena found herself reaching out. She spoke with Maribel, accepting her offer to watch the kids for a few hours that weekend. She even joined Tyrell and a few co-workers for lunch, letting herself laugh at stories that had nothing to do with stress or deadlines. That night, after dinner, Lena called a family meeting. She sat Milo and Zoey at the table and told them, "Things are tough right now, but we're a team. We face things together. So, if you're worried or sad or need to talk, I want to know. And if I'm having a hard day, I'll tell you too. We'll help each other." Milo nodded, determined. "I can help with laundry," he said, chest puffed with pride. Zoey grinned. "I can help with dishes, and maybe not get in trouble at school every day." They made a chart, chores, good deeds, mom breaks, and decorated it with Milo's drawings and Zoe's stickers. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. As the days passed, Lena noticed small but significant changes. Zoe's teacher sent home a note praising her for helping a classmate. Milo entered another art contest. This time, Lena was there to help him submit his work. The apartment stayed a little neater, the laughter a little louder. But the biggest change was in Lena herself. She stopped hiding her struggles, started asking for help, and let herself rest without guilt. She accepted kindness, from friends, from neighbors, from her children, and gave it back. She learned to celebrate small victories: a paid bill, a night without arguments, a Saturday morning spent drawing with Milo and Zoey at the kitchen table. One Friday evening, after a long week, Lena found herself looking out the window again. The city lights sparkled, but this time, she saw them differently. Not as a reminder of everything she hadn't done, but as a mosaic of lives, each with their own worries and triumphs. She realized she wasn't alone, and that her story, messy, imperfect, and unfinished, was enough. Lena called the kids over, pulling them close. "You know," she said softly, "there were days I thought I couldn't keep going. But you two remind me every day why I do. Thank you for loving me, even when I'm not at my best." Milo leaned into her side. "We always will, Mom." Zoey nodded, her eyes shining. "You're our favorite person." Lena smiled, her heart full. She knew there would be hard days ahead, but together, they could face anything. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't just surviving. She was living. So if you've ever found yourself wondering whether you're enough, whether your presence matters, let this be your reminder. You are. Sometimes all it takes is reaching out, asking for help, and letting yourself be seen. Your story, just like Lena's, isn't over yet. If Lena's journey touched your heart, let us know in the comments. Have you ever felt overwhelmed or found strength when you least expected it? Hit the like button if you believe in the power of resilience and family. Subscribe for more real stories of hope and everyday courage. And don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss an episode. Your story matters. Share it, and let's lift each other up.